So my guest is Jeff Clayton. He is the executive director of the American Bail Coalition. And we're going to be talking about the probable lasting effects of the COVID-19 crisis on our criminal justice system. Hi, Jeffrey. How are you today? Thanks for joining us.
I'm well. Thanks for having me on.
So, Jeffrey, what does this look like for the criminal justice system now with COVID-19 living through this pandemic? And are we going to see more reforms?
I think we will. I think there'll be pressure to do reform. And, as you know, jail is a really terrible place. And during the COVID, all of a sudden, jail was demonized to where you'd probably rather be in the pits of hell than jail right now.
Right.
The way it's been portrayed with the COVID and everything. So what we've seen is groups pushing for bail reform, not just bail reform, but criminal justice reform, are using this as an opening. I mean, I was on the call with the Michigan Chief Justice who said this is a historic time to look at how we use jail and incarceration. I think that conversation will continue. And, we'll have to see what the results of the COVID really tell us, because at this point we don't really know.
And would you say that the goal is that we stop locking up so many black and brown people? I heard a stat this morning that said 1 in 3 babies, black babies, are going to be involved in the criminal justice system. That's not right. That's not right. And this whole idea of how we use probation, like Meek Mill, this man has been was on probation for more than half of his life. I mean, he couldn't even, take his kid to school without calling someone when his kid goes to school across a bridge in New Jersey. There's got to be some kind of reform, and we've got to, reshape the thinking of these prosecutors and district attorneys and even police officers. What do you think?
I agree, and I think, for my little piece of the world on bail and that issue, and also your comment about probation, is that really in the 1980s, we started getting into this idea of we're going to label people as risky. And at the time, Judge Amalia Kearse, who was the first African-American lawyer judge ever elevated to the Court of Appeals, said that's not what we do in America. We punish people for the violations. We don't punish them for what they may do in the future. And that's
Right.
how we've built our criminal justice system. And that's where we are. We assess people's risk and we hammer them based on some formula. And we deny the right to bail in many cases. And you're right. We can't have an offender pay system and expect it to work. Mm-hmm. And we know that because the people that are in the criminal justice system generally are broken. That's why they're there. They're not going to just all of a sudden get themselves together and pay for everything and make everything go well. That's just not working, and we know that.
And we know also, just the fact that you are labeled as a felon in some instances takes all kinds of opportunities for you to get yourself together if you choose to do so.
Absolutely. And I was talking to one of Congressman Danny Davis's staffers one time to explain this risk assessment methodology, and he indicated he went joyriding on his mom's moped and got pulled over by the police and got arrested. Of course, didn't get convicted or anything. But he said, so one of the factors is age at first arrest. Am I always a risk because of these labels? And the answer is yes, you are. And that's the game that we've gotten into, unfortunately.
Are you a risk in these United States if you're black or brown or poor?
Well, there's many risk assessments out there that use factors that correlate with poverty and race. We know that. And Eric Holder was anti-risk assessment at the time for that very reason, that we're using things like, do you own your house or not? And factors that are going to cut against historically disadvantaged groups that are then going to be locked out of the system and face higher bails, harsher punishments, longer sentences, all because of this risk methodology that we've built into the system.
How long have you been involved with this American Bail Coalition? And since your involvement, what is probably the greatest accomplishment or, piece of legislation or reform that you've been able to witness yourself?
Well, I've been with the American Bail Coalition for 5 years, but I've been working on bail reform since 1989, if you can believe it.
Wow.
And what the thing that I've seen that's really the sad part of all this was the idea that we were going to give the government the power to pick who they wanted to lock up rather than giving people the right to bail. And whether they posted it or not, it had to be a reasonable bail. And that was really led by, sadly, Joe Biden and a group of centrist Democrats in the 80s that put forward the risk-based preventative detention system that is the federal system that once, locked up 24% of people pre-trial, that now locks up 72%. So that's been, stopping those policies and having stopped them in a few states, Delaware, Colorado, Texas, California, hopefully, has been my biggest accomplishment to roll back the historical destruction of the right to bail that I think has resulted in part in mass incarceration.
Now that's pretty awesome, Jeffrey. How did you get involved with this work? What was there something personal that happened? What?
It's kind of a funny story. So in 1989, I was on the high school debate team because my dad made me. I wanted to be on the basketball team, and he's like, "You need to be on the debate team if you're going to get those new shoes." And so the topic was this, and that's when I started reading about it when I was, 14 years old.
Wow. So based on, you being on the debate team and learning speech communications, this is how you got into this work. Boy, that is an interesting story. Please tell us how people can get involved with the American Bail Coalition or read more about the work that you guys are doing.
Absolutely. ambailcoalition.org is our website, or follow us on Facebook or Twitter.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Jeffrey Clayton. It's been a pleasure. I'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you. Take care. Have a good day.
You too. All right, it is 10:17 on the Talk of Chicago, 1690 WVON.